Hello, I'm calling from the Trib. I'd like to confirm a poll.
Getting you right around in 2 hours. I'm coming up on deadline.
How much money was involved? Was it over $1,000? Was it over $10,000?
Sundays when you don't want to heat up the kitchen. And making a sandwich only reminds you you're cooking for one. So I figured I'd heat up Phil's kitchen. I didn't realize half of Echo Park had the same idea.
There you go, sir. A little hot sauce for you. Look, I can give you your slaw now. Do you want your slaw?
I think my hash is ready, Phil, really.
Lou, will you please hold your horses? Your hash isn't even on the grill yet.
No one can accuse you of serving fast food, I'll say that.
Yeah, I know. Look, my dishwasher didn't show up this morning. I got nobody to bust the tables over there. I got nobody to run this food across the street to Mrs. Polk. Hey, Lou, could you help me out for a minute?
I won't wash dishes.
No. Just ring up the tabs, huh?
Okay.
All right. Now, look, don't give out any of those new dollars for quarters, and never press this button here. That's amount tendered. It always sticks. And, Lou, would you run this across for me, please? Right upstairs above the Mexican restaurant.
Okay.
Thanks. Oh, and by the way, Lou, when you get up there, knock 3 times, put down the tray, and then leave.
Put my hash on the grill.
I will.
Just go about your business.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've been serving Mrs. Polk 3 meals a day for 17 years, Lou.
What is she, sick or something?
I don't know. I've never seen her. But the couple that owned this place before me, they used to feed her, too.
Free?
No. I bill her once a month.
That restaurant sure is an eyesore.
Oh, Baby Duarte's, yeah. She owns the place. Pays taxes on it every year, but she won't lease it out. I made a run at her a couple of years ago, but she wouldn't budge.
Was it really a Baby Duarte?
Oh, yeah, Filipino kid. Pretty fair little fighter for his time, too. I think, though, he just lent his name to the joint, you know? Oh. Diner. Oh, yeah, Mrs. Polk. Well, what do you mean? Did you call the police? We'll do that right away. I'll be over and check. Lou, she's hearing noises downstairs. You want to give me a hand?
Great. That was great. Hey! That old lady yelling at us. Uh-oh. Hey, you kids, hold it. Hey!
I'll check inside.
Okay.
Excuse me. I was just checking to make sure everything's all right.
Nothing is all right. Get out. It's not safe down there.
Baby Duarte's Cantina.
Yeah? It's where I always asked to go eat when I was a kid. I wanted to see the baby I thought ran the place.
Well, nothing's changed since you were there, except for 3 inches of dust.
They'd have me sit on a phone book. Waiter'd yell, hot plate, when he served the food. Still there, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see it.
Well, I don't think you're the only one. Why don't you get some shots of the place?
Oh, good.
He could shoot color and pitch it to the Sunday magazine.
You shoot in black and white for us. Let the 5th floor come up with their own ideas.
Sure, Lou.
We'll stay out on the street or the sidewalk.
Sounds like the story's inside.
Don't trespass, animal. The lady who lives there is easily spooked. Animal was right. The story was inside. And when he saw Phil deliver lunch, he decided to deliver dinner. He tried flowers. He tried music. He tried egg foo young. After 30 years of diner food, he figured Mrs. Polk would like a change. Animal was right about that, too.
Pictures certainly touch off a lot of memories for me.
Did you ever see Baby Duarte fight, Mrs. Pinchot?
I was a sparring partner for years.
Nah. I remember your husband was a fight fan from way back. I figured maybe you got dragged along sometimes.
Matthew never dragged me to prize fights. I never dragged him to canasta tournaments. In those days, that qualified as an open marriage.
I went to the fights in Detroit. I never heard of Baby Duarte.
Well, he hardly ever fought outside L.A. But for a time here, he owned the town.
His cantina was pretty popular with movie people. Apparently, the food was comme ci, comme ça. But celebrities were comfortable there.
Jeez, Baby was quick. Not much of a punch, but he'd kill you with those little flurries. That's what I remember best about him.
It's funny. What I remember best about Baby Duarte was his death 30 years ago at his restaurant. Murdered.
Lou Grant. A&E returns to Lou Grant.
Baby's final round, oh boy.
Baby tells agents, quote, "You don't own my soul."
Director Moran claims I could have killed Baby, but I didn't.
What a rag.
Can you believe a paper would print this junk?
Could you believe our paper would print this junk?
A little lowbrow for your taste, Rossi?
It's like finding out your father picked pockets for a living.
What are you talking about?
The screaming headlines, the gossip, the scummy style.
You two want to do an update on this murder, or would you prefer to sit around bad-mouthing your colleagues of past years?
Okay. I would like to talk to Thea Taft. Her byline's on practically all of this. Is she still around?
Is she?
Thea was city editor here in the 50s. Every time the competition beats us on one, she gives me a call. We've never met except on the phone. But I bet I could persuade her to come down here and talk.
Listen, I told Matthew Pynchon the day he pinned that stinking orchid on me and handed me my pension not to come around begging to have me back. Get off your knees, Grant. I'm not changing my mind.
Come on, Thea. I just thought you'd get a kick out of seeing how the city room had changed.
You mean the bars are off the windows?
Sure. I guess you heard we're all using computers now.
I don't care if you're typing the Trib on flapjacks and selling with melted butter. I'm not coming in.
Listen, Thea. We're doing an update on the Baby Duarte story.
No kidding.
Yeah, one of my reporters, Billy Newman.
Sure, I read her.
Well, she can use a little background. Can she come see you?
Who's in charge of the story?
Me.
Send her over. And if you don't want to be an ignorant jackass about Baby's murder, you better come too.
The offer was irresistible. So Billy and I skipped lunch that day and swung over to Glendale to meet Thea Taft.
Come in.
Vicious dog you got there. Thea, this had better be good.
It's all a matter of who writes it. Holy smoke. You look just like you sound.
So do you, kid. This is Billy Newman.
Sure.
Hi, Miss Taft.
Thea, honey.
Glad to meet you.
Sit down.
Thanks.
Slide that case over here, will you?
Sure.
So you two stumbled on the Baby Duarte case again, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Lou saw the cantina, and it got us wondering.
I covered the Black Dahlia. I covered the trunk murders at the Union Station and the zookeeper stabbings. But Baby's murder was a Lulu.
Why?
Because it was Baby. Everybody loved Baby. He was born in Manila, came to California when he was 15. He had a record of 64-3. Only 4 of the wins were by knockouts. What a smile, like a baby. A sweet, sweet man. How's the cantina? Built by Polk in 1937. Renamed after Baby became a partner in 41. Henry Polk died right after VJ Day. Baby let Mrs. Polk continue to live upstairs. That's the kind of a guy he was. Laura Sinclair, the girl with the come-hither smile.
Sure, I remember her pictures. The house on the square, flowers for a duchess. Yeah.
We all wore that bright red lipstick then. And white gloves everywhere. I guess I still got 24 pairs. That stinking lipstick came off on everything.
Still, it's so bold. It's kind of exotic.
Yeah, we were all exotic as hell in those days. Weren't we, Lou?
I used to wear an orchid behind my ear.
So, Laura Sinclair arrived that night at the cantina with 2 men. Lee Wittenberg, her agent, rumored to be her lover, and Kenneth Holmes, her other agent, rumored to be her lover.
Ooh.
You ain't heard nothing. Wittenberg died in 59. I never saw no bit on Holmes, so I guess he's still around.
He's...
Art Moran, known as the Wild Man, directed over 150 pictures.
What was his connection to the other 3?
Well, they'd all worked together. They all knew Baby, and they're all at the cantina the night of the murder.
Did they all have a motive?
Maybe. Laura Sinclair arrived at the cantina at midnight with both agents on her arm, raring to go. That's when the trouble began. Baby kissed Laura, or vice versa.
What kind of a kiss?
Well, who knows? But both agents took it bad.
I heard there was a brawl. Was that when it started?
No, that was with the director, Wild Man Moran. He stumbled in, 3 sheets to the wind, demanding a beer. Baby wouldn't serve him. The wild man called him a lot of names and then pitched a bottle of Tabasco at him. Then he charged Baby, head down, catching him in the stomach. That's when I think Baby figured that he didn't care if the cops considered his fists lethal weapons. He laid the wild man out, neat as can be.
In front of the customers.
Right. Next thing we know, it's 3:45 in the morning. Mrs. Polk wakens to the sound of a shot. She calls the police, and they find Baby sitting in that booth, his head on the table, dead.
Lieutenant Bill Bergen hadn't worked for the LAPD for 10 years, but he still had pull. He came in from his house trailer in Lone Pine to meet Rossi in the police property road.
Watery homicide was one of my first cases, and I took a lot of grief from your paper when it didn't get solved. It's always the one you don't solve that they try to hang you with.
Seems like a lot of Hollywood murders go unsolved. Thelma Todd, William Desmond Taylor, Thomas Ince.
Hey, son, stop looking at me like that. I never handled anything before talkies. Oh, boy. They're no more organized now than they were in my day. Oh, okay. Here we go. You don't find much evidence when a professional does the job.
What makes you think this was hired out?
Well, it wasn't any of the movie people. I mean, guys who know their glove size don't shoot prize fighters. They have it done for them. There we are, 1 coffee mug. And number 2 pencil, chewed on the end. Blood slide for victims. 2 bullets. 22 automatic, no prints. And, a produce order form. That's it.
So who do you figure hired this hitman?
Yeah, it could have been any of them. My guess is it was the girl.
Laura Sinclair?
Sure. She used to go out with that type.
Men with underworld connections.
Goons. The girl was top-heavy with class.
Why would you want Baby Duarte killed?
Well, he embarrassed her boyfriend, Wittenberg. Now, my guess is she asked one of her meatball pals to teach Baby a lesson. And the dope overdid it. She cracked up after a few months and ended up in a nut house in Illinois or someplace, and, well, that's that.
Laura Sinclair asked one boyfriend, who was a hood, to defend the honor of another boyfriend, an agent, who killed a 3rd boyfriend, a fighter. Does that make sense?
How long have you lived in L.A., son?
Lou Grant will continue in a moment here on A&E.
I love having friends over.
A&E returns to Lou Grant.
Animal, Rossi's looking for you.
Animal, where have you been? I'm ready to talk to that crazy widow who lives over the Mexican restaurant. Got an address and phone on her?
I don't know, Rossi. She kind of trusts me. Wouldn't it make more sense for me to do the interview?
Animal, my job is words. That's what I'm paid to do. You're paid for pictures, so why don't you just let me do what I'm paid to do?
Mrs. Polk, I work with Dennis Price, our photographer at the Tribune. And he had such nice things to say about you and the cantina. And the picture series we ran was such a wonderful success. But Dennis and I thought, well, let's ask Mrs. Polk if she'll reminisce a little. Tell us what it was like when Los Angeles was such a great place to live. The red streetcars, the orange groves. Right, Mrs. Polk? What we have here is a fairly common problem. What you think of as your right to privacy versus the public's right to know. Now, in several important court cases over the past few years, the press has succeeded in demonstrating we're well within our rights. I realize, of course, you have no way of knowing about these legal precedents.
I know about trespassing laws, mister. Get off my property.
Do you remember when McKenna's used to squeeze its orange juice fresh?
My first day here, the county staff took me down to McKenna's for a screwdriver with fresh orange juice.
Sounds good.
Out of this world. When did they stop doing that?
Oh, it's been years.
I guess. When did they get rid of the orange groves in the valley? Whatever happened to the eucalyptus trees along Melrose? Why do I sound like a 90-year-old man?
You know, what surprises me is that so much of the town is still here. Remember those donut places shaped like coffee mugs? I saw one the other day. Now it's a dry cleaner shaped like a coffee mug. But you see, the old L.A. is still here just under the surface, but you gotta look for it.
Animals, you can go and try and talk to that crazy Mrs. Polk, but don't expect to get any. Whatever you did last time turned her off reporters totally. Mrs. Pope? May I come in?
Yes, please. May I take your hat?
This is very nice. Real, California style, you know?
Yes, it's comfortable. I had a house full of furniture in Wilmington, but this is
When in Rome, right?
nice. Won't you sit down?
Wilmington. In Delaware?
Yes, that's where Mr. Polk and I met.
I was hoping to tape record our conversation. When I take notes, it makes it hard to really listen to everything.
What's that?
It's a little tape recorder.
Oh, yes.
If you ask me what makes it work, I'm up a crick.
Please don't try. Mr. Polk tried to explain radio to me, and all it did was spoil a good meal.
May I ask you about the night baby Duarte died?
I guess so. What do you want to know?
Well, the Hollywood people involved with Baby.
I didn't know the movie people. They were a very fast crowd.
But Baby...
Baby, being in boxing and all, he thought there was something special. And they probably thought he was fun to run with, too.
Were you down there that night?
No.
When was the last time you saw him?
In the afternoon when I totaled the receipts. I used to do the books for the cantina. Baby couldn't stand anything that was sit-down work. I thought it was the least that I could do.
And you were the one who found the body.
That's right. I was asleep. I guess it was the gunshot that woke me up. But I didn't hear it. I came in here and I went over to the window and I looked down. Baby was in the back booth, fallen over the table. I got dressed and went down. He was dead. The police came, the ambulance. He was dead.
Did you see anyone?
Isn't that a pitiful thing? Worrying about dressing at a time like that. The police said Baby died right off. I couldn't have done anything. But still.
It's understandable.
I'm so ashamed. I guess it was the way I was raised. You can't help how you were raised.
The cantina, it's been closed since then.
No, the police finished their investigation and I opened it. That was wrong, too.
Nobody came.
Everybody came to see where Baby died. The bus tours, everything. One day I came down, there were 12 people waiting. At 10 in the morning. Buzzards. I turned around, I came back up here. I haven't been down since.
Do you sometimes wish you'd sold the place, moved back east?
I couldn't sell. I loved him. Cantina was his life.
Baby?
Mr. Polk, my husband. Baby loved Cantina, too. I've let them both down.
Lou Grant will continue in a moment here on A&E.
This is Steel Wool on a tip.
Lou Grant.
Laura Sinclair was on the tube that night. I'd been working late and decided to check out the competition on the 11 o'clock news. I must not have been paying attention, because the next thing I knew, I looked up, and there she was. The girl with the come-hither smile. The picture was called The Empty Hour. I first saw it at Fort Dix a couple of days before we shipped out. She played a girl who worked in a department store. And the last scene was on the Staten Island ferry in the pouring rain. She had on one of those sensible wartime hats that kept her face dry. Until she started crying. What a face.
Morning, Lou.
Morning. I got some pictures from Thea, and she sent this along for you.
No fooling.
What it boils down to is, of the 4 major suspects, 2 are dead. Laura Sinclair and one of her agents, Lee Wittenberg.
The 2 are still alive, and both of them in L.A. The director, Wildman Moran, and the other agent, Kenneth Holmes.
Plus, Laura Sinclair's best friend is still around. I think I got a local number on her.
Who?
Her name's Coral Mayberry. She was her wardrobe lady. When Sinclair started cracking up, Coral Mayberry took a lot of abuse.
Where'd you get that?
I read it.
Where?
Screen Stories magazine.
I don't think she's kidding.
Oh, it's a good lead.
And it's all yours, Billy. You have exclusive claim to all fan magazines. So, what do you think, Charlie? Does it make an interesting, nice little Where Are They Now story?
That takes 2 reporters and 1 photographer and will add up to a possibly amusing trot down memory lane.
We got a lot of good mail on Animal's pictures of the cantina.
I just wish there were more substance, that's all.
There is.
How so?
The lady who lives above the cantina. It's really her story. It's what, 30 years since her husband's partner died down there, and her life is just suspended.
She's haunted, Charlie.
She's frightened. When I was in the cantina, she said it wasn't safe.
I really wish we could make some sense out of Baby Duarte's murder, because now I've seen Mrs. Polk, and I think she really needs to know.
Not a bad angle.
It's a honey. Go do it.
Rossi had been tracking down tough interviews half his life. Wildman Moran was still working. Now Rossi knew how to find him.
Excuse me, Miss Moran. Mr. Moran?
We ready?
I don't know. My name's Joe Rossi. I'm a reporter for the Trib. I called earlier.
Oh, sure. I thought you were an assistant director. You're looking younger to me all the time. Let's find a place to sit down.
Thank you for talking to me.
I've done it a million times, no problem. And, of course, if you could say a few kind words about Josh Walker, M.D., so much the better.
I'm afraid I can't promise that kind of trade-off. I'm sorry.
I'll survive.
Personally, though, I think it's a pretty good show. I don't get a chance to watch much television, but...
Yeah, well, if the networks weren't all scared of that, the violence, maybe we could work a little action into this thing. Yak, yak, yak. Besides, my stuntmen pals are starving to death. Okay. What can I tell you?
Can you tell me about the night of Baby Duarte's murder? What were you doing in the cantina?
Well, my wife tossed me out of the house, so that meant spending the night in the athletic club in Hollywood. So I'm tooling along Las Palmas. I had this big Buick convertible. Boy, can you imagine what that'd be worth today if I'd held on to it?
I'll say.
So there's Baby's place, as big as life, and I go on in. Now, the food at Baby's was never the best. Of course, here he is from the Philippines, and what does he know about tamales? But in those days, nobody's eating raw fish the way they do now.
Was Baby there when you arrived?
Oh, sure. He gave me a slap on the back and a combination plate. But he won't draw me a beer. So I tell him it'll clear my head. But Baby doesn't see it that way, so I take a poke at him.
Did Baby fight back? He couldn't, could he?
Ah, Baby and me mixed it up a dozen times. He didn't want to be seen taking on an amateur in public. Of course, anyone who knew me knew I was an amateur in name only. My right's been busted so many times I couldn't even hurt you. But 30 years ago, I wasn't so bad.
So Baby Duarte kind of humiliated you in public.
Listen, son. I didn't kill Baby. We were pals. You know that sob sister on your paper, that Taft dame?
Teo, yeah.
She never understood that. My wife could never get into her noggin. But the cops, they knew. Men understand.
And Laura Sinclair?
Poor dame, she went off her rocker, died in some nut house in Iowa.
Were the two of you ever involved?
I'm a drinker, son, not a chaser. Been married 40 years and never went after another woman.
Where were you at 3 o'clock the morning of the murder?
I don't know. Fortunately, the attendant at the athletic club remembered Ken Holmes checking me, and I guess he thought I was too drunk to drive, and probably was. Next thing I know, it's Sunday night, and the cops are pounding on my door. That's all she wrote.
You know, when I got the go-ahead to come see you, I suddenly thought, what'll I wear?
You look real cute, honey. Just stay away from reds.
Oh, right, and big prints.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's nice to know my mother steered me right all these years. You were very close to Laura Sinclair.
That's right.
I've only seen pictures of her. It's kind of hard to tell what kind of a person she was from just photographs.
Laura Sinclair was a very beautiful girl, but fragile. Have you ever seen a gardenia?
Sure. Not for ages, though.
Well, florists don't like to stalk them because they turn brown on them so fast. When you find a beautiful girl like Laura Sinclair, you better make use of her now because she's not going to be around for long.
Didn't she have some kind of a nervous breakdown shortly after the baby Duarte murder?
In came fairly fast, poor girl.
She appeared to become very hostile to you in particular.
I suppose.
Why do you figure she was so cruel to her closest friend? Didn't she make some kind of a scene about you in front of the crew?
I'm not going to say anything bad about Laura. She's gone.
Gone? Gone where?
She's no longer with us.
Speak plain, Miss Mayberry. Is she dead? I don't want you to have to lie, so let me help you. Laura Sinclair went back to Indiana and checked into a private sanitarium in February of 1948. The hospital administrators deny that she died there. They've been denying that for 30 years. You know what I think? I think that Laura Sinclair's still alive. Back home, safe, in a hospital, still fighting whatever goblins put her there in the first place.
Let it be.
There was a murder, Miss Mayberry.
Exactly. Let it be.
Okay, now listen. Rossi drew the assignment to interview Kenneth Holmes, one of Laura Sinclair's agents. He set it up for a Sunday afternoon, which seemed like a dumb idea to me. It looked even dumber when a chemical warehouse blew and Rossi got called to Norwalk. I got stuck with trying to dig up someone else to meet Holmes on a Sunday afternoon. It wasn't easy. We cleared up the fact that those kids weren't his and that I wasn't Rossi. It turns out Holmes goes to all the Dodger games and sometimes takes the neighborhood with him.
Mind if we walk? I've got to get in by 3 miles.
Sure.
Bad heart.
Well, I had heard that about agents, but I had no idea it was true.
Well, I had to quit my business 20 years ago. Doctor's orders.
Well, who ran the agency?
Oh, my partner, Lee. Till he dropped dead on Beverly Boulevard in October of '59. I remember because I was back in Chicago watching the series.
Mm-hmm. It's ironic, isn't it? You've got the bad heart and he's the one who dies.
Well, I'm just glad that I'm still the one that's around to enjoy the irony.
Yes. Can we talk about Baby Duarte's murder?
All right.
Well, why did your partner pick that fight with Baby? Was he jealous about Laura Sinclair?
Oh, Laura was a lovely girl, but the way she fooled around, you could spend half your life being jealous. Lee wasn't jealous, and neither was I.
Yeah, but your relationship with Baby was tense that night.
Correct.
Why?
Well, my partner was a good businessman, sometimes too good. We each had a piece of Baby and several other fighters. And whatever the deal was that Lee made, Baby began to feel cheated.
He was getting ready to sue?
Well, he claimed he would get our other fighters to join him.
Well, that must have made you and Wittenberg pretty angry.
Oh, come on. We
We owned prize fighters because we enjoyed it. Who needed the grief, you know? There's a boy climbs down from a coconut palm, and the next thing he's a money genius.
Well, if you were sore, why did you go to Baby's restaurant that night?
We shouldn't have. But Laurie had been such a good girl at the premiere that she wanted Mexican food at Duarte's, and so we went.
Uh-huh. Well, where were you at 3 o'clock the next morning?
I took Al Moran, who was too drunk to drive, to the athletic club in his car, and I tried to get a cab home, and then started to walk and got all the way to the Hollywood Roosevelt before one came by.
Did the driver corroborate your story?
The police had a devil of a time finding him. Turns out he drove me home without calling in the fare and trying to make a couple of dollars on the meter, which I can understand. L.A.'s a lousy cab town.
What about Lee Wittenberg? Where was he?
Well, it was Saturday night. He got to take Laura home.
Lou Grant will continue in a moment here on A&E.
Okay, here goes. Yeah.
A&E returns to Lou Grant.
Mrs. Polk's got enough trouble without being hassled.
Hi, Billy. Come on in. Have a bagel?
I'm being threatened.
What?
And I think I know by whom.
Not by me.
Of course not by you. Jeez. Look,
What is it?
a chicken.
You were threatened by a chicken? Did you kill it?
It was already dead.
You were threatened by a dead chicken.
It was hanging from my lamp,
Oh,
with its head and its feet still on,
wow.
with the trib under it.
Heavy.
Am I the only one this has happened to? Hasn't anybody else been threatened?
They must have decided to go after our weakest link.
Rossi.
Look, we're poking into a murder here. Someone killed someone. And the fact that it happened 30 years ago doesn't seem to make much difference.
On the other hand, the chicken may have committed suicide.
My landlord said he let a tall gypsy lady into my apartment last night who claimed she was my aunt. Now, I don't have an aunt, and I don't know many tall gypsies, Miss Mayberry. That was trespassing, you know, and destruction of personal property.
Nothing got destroyed. I put paper down in case the chicken dripped.
How would you like to tell that to the police?
How would you like to meet Laura Sinclair?
Where's Lou?
He and Charlie are up in Pynchon's office with Senator Emanuel.
Perfect. Tell Lou that Laura Sinclair is alive. She's been living in Santa Rosa, raising kids, married all along. Coral Mayberry kept the public away for 30 years, but now apparently she's ready to talk, and we've got her. Good luck.
Why did you disappear?
Well, I had made 10 pictures in 4 years, and each one was a little bit more successful than the last one. But I really didn't know what I was doing. It was only a matter of time until I fell flat on my face. So I just threw a few pairs of shoes at Coral to make people think I was cracking up and went back home to Indiana.
Where the sanitarium's been protecting you all this time.
They weren't lying. I did check in, and I did check out.
But when you came here, how in the world did you disguise yourself?
I just let my hair grow, and I wore my specs all of the time, and I took off my girdle. Once I was Dr. Richardson's wife, no one even spotted me.
I'm amazed.
Well, I thought people figured it made more sense for Laura Sinclair to end up a mess in a booby hatch than as a mom in Santa Rosa.
You had a reputation for being pretty wild.
Oh, look at me. I'm the squarest person around. I went out with everybody because there was never any somebody.
What about all the men?
There were no men.
Your agents, Baby Duarte, and that mobster?
Oh, my agents made me crawl.
What about Baby Duarte?
Baby was a sweet, sweet boy.
Were you lovers?
He always dreamed of owning a chicken ranch. My dad raised chickens, and that made me a poultry expert in Baby's eyes. Anytime a farm came up for sale, he took me along to look at it. That's all. Every time we'd see a farm, Baby would shake his head and say, I go back, Philippines, and I get me a real farm.
Were you lovers?
No. I forgot what the press was like.
Who killed him?
I wish I knew.
Give me about 450, 500 words. Rossi's interviews are loaded with quotes, so follow his style.
Sure.
Hannibal's been trying to track down where Baby was buried. We'll run a shot of the grave if he can get it. Either way, we'll start the series on Tuesday.
What's the rush?
Charlie's starting to stew. I think we've got what there is to get.
Aw.
What?
Well, didn't you kind of hope we'd figure out who did it?
Billy.
I know.
Thea Taft says Baby's at Queen of Angels Cemetery, and that we couldn't find our rear ends at high noon in a hall of mirrors.
You're looking for Janice Joplin. Well, she ain't here. Whoever sold you the map gave you a bum steer.
Janice Joplin? No kidding.
You kids never believe me. What I gotta do? She's not here, never was.
I believe you. What about Baby Duarte?
How do you know Baby Duarte?
Everybody knows Baby.
Not anymore. Come on, I'll show you where he is. I saw his first fight in the States. He was pretty green then, but speedy, oh boy. He had tiny little feet, like Babe Ruth's. Of course, on Ruth, it was out of proportion. But Baby's feet were just so little. Here, we're just around the corner here. Here we are. Nice, ain't it? That marble was all hand polished. Nothing like it's been made in 30 years. These folks got their money's worth, I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm. Must be expensive today.
Not been for sale in years. This one sold with babies.
It did?
Yeah, families like to do that. Husbands and wives, mothers and sons. Looks like somebody's been waiting 30 years to join Baby.
Baby had no family here. Everyone was in Manila.
But somebody over here loved Baby very much.
Everybody loved Baby.
Now, one person loved him enough to want to be close to him forever. And that person thought her love for him had to be a secret. But I don't know why. Baby wasn't married, and you were single too at the time, Mrs. Pope. Why did you keep it a secret?
Shame.
What was there to be ashamed of?
Baby was colored.
So?
I wasn't that kind of girl.
But if he loved you...
He did. And I loved him very much.
Then I don't get it. Why didn't he marry you?
He couldn't. It's against the law.
Because he wasn't white. Mrs. Pope. They changed that law.
They did?
Yes. I think it's been 25 years.
It wasn't a bad law. Baby wanted to go back to the Philippines. He wanted a farm. A wife. A family. He was going to leave me.
you couldn't let him go.
I loved him so much.
We ran Mrs. Polk's interview with the rest of Baby's stories. Animal took a couple of days off. Went up to Yosemite, but said it was too quiet. I got him assigned to the clerical workers' strike, and he's pretty much snapped out of it. I haven't eaten at Phil's diner for 3 months. He's probably wondering what's wrong.
A politician's controversial lifestyle leads to his murder on Law and Order tonight. Now, a cop is acting crazy. Can his partner save him before it's too late? Join us for Police Story next on A&A.